It's been a while. What is all this? Anyway, welcome back. Obviously, it's been about 2 years since my last video. It's been a little crazy, but I finally had some time to go ahead and throw together a few builds for another one. So today I'll be taking you through a bunch of builds that I've put together for every single villager profession, as you can see here. There are 13 villager types currently in the game, not counting the wandering trader or the nitwit, so really there's 13 types of trading villagers. You might be able to guess what some of these are just based on how they look already. I would think that this one right here is a dead giveaway, and maybe this one as well. But, you know, what I'll be doing here is essentially showing y'all what I've built, explaining a little bit of detail on, you know, how I built specific parts or the idea behind each specific build, how you can implement them into your survival or creative worlds and try to make it more lively, as well as saving space with where you're keeping your villagers and being able to hold them without having to worry about them breaking out. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the 13 houses, one for each Minecraft base villager trading type. So the first one that we have here is just a basic barn. This is where we'll be holding our shepherd villagers with all of our sheep. It's a pretty normal design using the new cinnabar bricks as well as the pale oak planks, which I've used quite a bit in some personal designs. As we go through the doors here, you'll see the design indoors with these little sheep pens, including our red sheep held in about a 2x6 area. Same with our black, white sheep, as well as our blue sheep, our yellow sheep, and our green sheep, which allows us to breed for every single possible color combination. Down here, you can see where our shepherd villagers are. They'll buy some of that wool for emeralds. I also have this area upstairs where you can make a storage room. Maybe you feed some kind of auto sheep farm into a chest up here or something just to make it worth it, or just to fill the space. But you can also see this little pathway design I did through the middle just to add a little bit more shape indoors. But overall, that is a pretty basic idea of the barn design that we can do for our shepherd villager. Secondly, we have this greenhouse for the farmer villager. As you can see, it's a lot of glass, and the design is very inspired by the greenhouse build from one of my earlier videos, especially with the windows and the stone brick stairs. As you go inside, you can see that we did make everything completely functional as compared to the original video, keeping the azalea tree in the middle but having these sweet berry bushes on the left side, our carrots as well on the left further back, and then a small sugarcane farm on the right, nothing automatic. Again, the azalea tree, and then these beet roots here on the left, or I guess on the right. The melons and pumpkins are villagers, once again sunk into the floor to save some space. As we go outside, you have your potatoes and carrots, which are probably going to be your main food source. And a little walkway outside. Thought it was important to include that instead of just being the interior. As you can see, we made sure that the sun could come in through the roof while keeping some of the framework in the stone brick slabs and stairs and such. But overall, a very simple build for the greenhouse and farmers. And now here we have our armorer. As you can see, a much more relaxed build, very white and gray. Trying to make it look a little bit more serious using tough and pale oak. As we're going to go inside here, you will very quickly figure out why it is the armorers, with armor stands all around showing different kinds of armors, chests to hold materials, little outdoor workspace, which I thought would be cool to include out here with a decent view. Obviously, a little flat, but in your world it could look a lot better. As we go back inside, you can see the chests, the glass pane windows that I played with, as well as the armor stands. And then you can see the villagers once again in the floor here in the corners just to save space. And that is going to be our relatively simple armory build. Again, just going around showing the general dimensions of it, including this outdoor workspace with those stained glass pane windows, and that's going to be the final build. Our fourth build here is much simpler. Obviously this is a raft style for our fishing villagers. This is more meant to be sort of an add-on to an already existing build that you may have that's within the water instead of its own thing. You definitely could try to go more in depth with an actual boat design for these guys, but I thought in terms of something simplistic and easy to make that we would do this raft style using the campfires and the slabs. Obviously you could do things like adding a crafting table or a furnace here in the middle just to try to make it a little bit more functional, but really it's just meant to be an add-on to, like I said, that already existing base. So a pretty simple build, pretty easy to replicate build here for our fishing villager, but it'll get the job done. And right after that, we have a way more in-depth build here. We have an archery range for our Fletcher villagers. Obviously, a lot of their trades involve bows and such, so I thought that this sort of range would make a lot of sense for them. As we go inside, or actually not inside yet, we can see we use these hay bales in the back to kind of protect that back wall. And just general, target usage. As we go inside, you can see very open area. You can see we have these targets down here. I'm actually, here in a second, I'm going to go ahead and show you these villagers first. These are our Fletcher villagers, again, in the floor to save space. And then we have our barrels to store arrows. But again, these targets are completely functional here. I'll grab a bow real quick. You see me grab the bow out of my inventory, but when you shoot these targets, it actually activates the trap door to show you that you shot it, which kind of gives you like a marker. And you could do this with redstone lamps and such. I just thought that the trap doors would be the most out of the way and easiest to do, especially for earlier game. So definitely something that you could consider when doing a build like this, but that is going to be our completed archery range building for our Fletcher villagers, including these working targets and just working range. Next, we have our Weaponsmith. As you can see, I again went with a much darker tone with the this deep slate blackstone and white pale oak for the Weaponsmith. Again, with this kind of vendor style look, you have our kind of workspace area with the lava cauldrons and the smithing table, our trims with the blackstone, and then you can see again we have just our Weaponsmith villagers down here in the floor selling their normal trades. But as we go back outside, again you can see these sort of pale oak trimmings that I use, as well as using the fences for just decoration to try to break up the dark color of this house. But a very simple build. You can see some changes in the roof, but that is going to be our Weaponsmith building, except for these iron bars that you can see that are used in the side of the building just to make it look more reinforced for our weaponsmiths. Here at our halfway point, we have an observatory build for our Cartographer villagers. Obviously, they focus on maps, so I thought that giving them a way to see out of their building would make a lot of sense. Obviously, they can't see out of the floor, but for us, it looks really nice having this glass dome. As we go inside, we can see I kind of did this dugout floor, and under each trapdoor here is a Cartographer villager. But just the glass dome is the main thing. I debated adding a second floor to see out of, as again, there's more cartographers, but decided against it for the sake of time. But definitely something that you could add, or just generally add maybe a telescope poking out or whatever. But as you can see, using the spruce and stripped spruce logs to create a sort of texture, as well as this brick inlay. Again, using the bricks on the outside around the glass dome to sort of give it a finish instead of just looking really bland. But yeah, that is going to be our finished observatory for our Cartographer villagers. Here we have maybe the most important villager, which is the Librarian. If you couldn't guess what I'm going to build for him, it's a library using a lot of this birch. Birch was an interesting choice for me, something I just wanted to play around with, as well as this packed mud or mud bricks for the roof, using the spruce and oak for the finish. Using these shelves to cap off the bookshelves to give it just an end is nice, and then you can see we use these hanging signs to show what each villager is. These stairs with these white stained glass windows make kind of a table. And again, we have everything. And just so you know, I did actually go through and sort for mending just to put them in the front. So you're welcome. But again, all these guys labeled with their trades. The roof, very simple, as well as the walls, but it gets the job done. And that's kind of a really basic showing of our library. Again, just showing these kind of supports that I use with shelves and trapdoors and stairs around the entire building, just to give it a little bit more shape, which I'm very happy with. Again, just showing every angle, as well as the very flat roof. You could change the roof if you want. I just have the torches up there so no mobs would spawn. But that is our library for our librarian villagers. Up next, we have a building that I'm very happy with. This is our butcher building for our butcher villagers. As you can see, using a lot of the spruce and dark oak that I usually use. As we go inside, you'll notice the pale oak log floor, as well as, again, the cobblestone roof and such. On this side, you have our villagers. Again, just two. Don't need a ton. We have our little market stall for selling out here, as well as barrels for holding any cooked food that you may want to save, as well as our active kind of stove over here. On this other side, we have this cow pen, actually in the build. It's not outside of the building. I have an indoor and outdoor portion that I'm very happy with here. So just something that I'd come up with during the building process that I really liked. You can see the window for them there. But yes, building that I'm really happy with. Not one that I expected to enjoy this much, but just something I tried that was different and turned out really well in my eyes. Again, my kind of basic roof design that I like to use with the slabs and stairs to create a curve. Just the slabs on the front here, but yeah, just a really simple design that by adding a few extra details like this stall out here, just make it look a lot better than a regular house. So yeah, that's our butcher. Now, for our stonemason villagers, I felt it was best to put them in a quarry of sorts. As you can see, very decorated with the stone. Not a lot of texturing, just to kind of make it more realistic. Obviously, if I wasn't in a super flat world, I would make it much deeper and larger. But in the events that I'm on my testing world, I was not able to do that. But as you can see, we just have our mason villagers in the floor, able to sell a stone from this quarry. But yeah, very simple build, just trying to make sure that what I have is detailed enough, including this walkway, using a lot of pressure plates and buttons just to make it look like different rocks. Definitely using this circular pattern just to sort of decorate it a little bit, but that is going to be our quarry. Here is our last vendor style building. As you can see, a little different than our armory and our weaponsmith shop. This is the leather worker, which I've decided to do a sort of closed shop design using a lot of different ideas that I've had. As you go inside, you can see these kind of shelves with the barrels. You have this kind of sewing machine idea that I came up with. We have our leather worker inside here. But just, again, the sewing machine, something that I tried to come up with here just to be a little different, as well as the armor that he's the clothes that he's currently working on designing. Using this different roof or ceiling design here with the bricks, just to try something different. Again, going outside, you can see the clothes outside, as well as the finished roof. Using the andesite and bricks, as well as these dark oak trapdoors hiding the azalea leaves above. A lot of oak in this one, as well as the spruce and dark oak. Like using a lot of different wood colors just to make it different, and just having these different designs. But that is going to be our clothes shop for our leather worker. Here is another very different design. As you can see, this is sort of a mine shaft design that I've done for our Toolsmith villager. This sort of rock formation in the back isn't realistic. This would be something that you build in the side of a mountain most likely, and this would likely be a staircase that goes down. But here we're going to have our Toolsmith villagers sitting here in the wall with their smithing tables, just so that they can come and give and sell players pickaxes as they go into the mines. Again, just using this sort of mine shaft entrance. Very simple design. You just really have to dig everything out if you're in survival mode. But obviously, again, in a super flat world, not a lot I can do with mountains and such. So had to build my own sort of stone face here to do that. This is kind of what it looks like from everywhere but the inside, which is where you're supposed to see it. So, but this is going to be our mine shaft for our Toolsmith workers as players are heading into the mines. And last but not least, we have our Cleric. As you can tell, I tried a lot of very different stuff with this build, especially the color palette using cyan wool as well as the warped stem. As you can see here, I really played around with some different stuff, including this colored smoke, just to get a different idea for what I wanted in the chimney. Knew I wanted something to do with brewing potions, and I thought a colored smoke chimney would make the most sense. Here you can see them growing some nether wart to make their potions, as well as their brewing stands, and then of course the clerics inside, again selling things such as ender pearls and potion materials. Pretty basic dark oak linings for the spruce wood, as well as keeping the sulfur brick on top. Something that I really played around with for the first time. Obviously, I'm very new to this update after taking a break, so sulfur was realistically one of the first things that I wanted to play around with design-wise. But that is going to be our final house for today's video, which is the Cleric's Workshop. Actually using these purple and magenta stained glass panes to just give it a little bit more color. And again, thank you so much for watching today's video. I know it's been about 2 or so years since my last post, but this is something that I really want to get back into now that I have some ideas again, and a little bit more time on my hands. So if you really want to see back when I was super active, as you can see behind me, I have my first big video with the 10 levels of your Minecraft house. I do have a lot of really cool ideas on the way. May play around with some survival stuff, but kind of depends on the next few weeks with video uploads and just general how I deal with burnout. So I know YouTube likely isn't going to really sort of recommend this to a lot of people. So if you can, liking and subscribing would do a lot for me right now. Again, after a long hiatus over the last about 1.5 to 2 years. So again, thank you for watching this video if you made it this far. If these buildings helped you, please let me know. It is great to hear when people use some of my ideas in their builds. It's great to hear. I don't have an issue with anyone reusing any of my ideas. So yeah, hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Deuces.